Hi, everybody from Goodyear, Arizona, out at Indian spring training. And I got to tell you, it's always fun to come out and just see who's here. This is the first week of spring training, so we have a game on Saturday. But, you know, the team is kind of ramping up. The Indians' media coverage is ramping up, too. And one of the all-stars of the Indians, Tom Hamilton!
Hi, Betsy. Good to have you out here.
Good to have you here, too.
Thank you.
And so I think what a lot of people would be curious about is, how are you studying? We have a whole new team now. What's up with that?
You know, we were talking, it's like your first day in school.
Yeah.
Where you walked into the clubhouse and you go, I wish everyone had a name tag.
Yes.
Because, you know, there are a lot of new faces. But that also brings a different energy and a different vibe. You still have the holdovers and you still have some of the best players in the game and the pitching staff and Frankie and Jose Ramirez and Carlos Santana. But it's the young kids, and that's the beauty of this time is you get a chance to talk to them. They're a lot more relaxed right now.
Right.
But once those games start, Betsy, they're competing. And there are a lot of guys competing for a few spots on the team. So it's going to get a little nerve-wracking for those guys here in a couple of days.
Well, it's nerve-wracking for the fans, too.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we've been building, and now you almost feel like, now we have to start all over again.
Yeah, except we're not. And I mean, when you have that kind of a rotation, you're in every game. You've got a chance to win every night when it's Kluber or Bauer or Carrasco or Clevenger or Bieber starting. You know, the key, Betsy, and I think everybody knows it, you know, who's going to pitch the 8th and 9th innings and who's going to hit. Besides Frankie Lindor and Jose Ramirez and Carlos Santana and Jason Kipnis, you know, it's a chance for some young guys to make a name for themselves, much like Frankie and Jose did a couple of years ago. But, you know, I think more than anything, you need somebody to come out of this camp maybe as a surprise, make a big splash that maybe you weren't counting on.
Well, as the radio voice of the Indians, you have to have on-demand information at all times.
Now we make it
on
up.
all of these guys. How do you prepare for the season? How do you study when you've got all these new faces?
Well, that's part of it. Should just say an informal setting, you know, but there's so many, as you said, that we haven't had to do that for a while. But, you know, it's fun to get to hear their stories and maybe bring something to the broadcast that we haven't heard about them and humanize them for the fans of Cleveland. And you know what? At the end of the day, if they play well, people will love them.
That's right. Who are you most excited to watch out here in Arizona?
Well, that's a good question, Betsy. I would think Jake Bauers is one, the young man from Tampa Bay that's got a chance to be a really good player. You know, he got off to a great start with Tampa last year, and like so many kids, you know, kind of faded. And so which Jake Bauers are we going to get? And it's a chance for him to reestablish himself. And then I think the other big name to watch, really, or names, are the guys in the bullpen. You know, is John Edwards going to be that guy that we kind of got a glimpse of last year to be an impact back of the bullpen kind of arm? There's a youngster that came in the Yan Gomes trade, Jeffrey Rodriguez. There's another person too, Betsy. He's not young, but Leonis Martin. He was a really good player for the Indians last year and then almost died.
Right.
And, you know, when you talk to him now and see him smiling again, this is the least of his concerns. He dodged death, and I don't think there's anybody more excited about the season than Leonis. He's a really good player.
Now, you've covered this team for a very long time, and just all of the stories that surround the baseball team. How do they stay focused? How do they keep that separation at this point in the season, and how critical is that?
Well, it is, and, you know, Tito's talked about it too, and pretty much any manager's talked about it. Look, these guys are going to go back to their rental homes or their hotel room, and they're going to lie in bed at night trying to figure out, okay, how did my competition do today? Am I ahead of the guy that I'm competing against, or am I behind him? Do I need to have you can't do that. And, you know, it's the old adage in life, control what you can control. Boy, that's easy to say when it's not your job that's on the line. I mean, we've all been there. For us, it was auditioning to get a job. And you were like, gee, I wonder how, I hope those other people sucked, you know, so I get the job. But, and that's how these guys are. They're human beings. You know, they don't get a lot of sleep as we get closer to opening day.
And what about all these extraneous stories, this stuff going on with Bauer and Sports Illustrated, and, you know, how does the team deal with that? Because you kind of have this this bad press versus the press you're trying to build going toward the season?
I guess you put up with it as long as he's one of the best pitchers in the game.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of sports. Now, the good news is he's not breaking any laws. You know, he's not doing some of the things that we've seen other players do in other sports that are felonies, and those people should be locked up. I'm glad he's not my son, because I would have yanked his Twitter account a long time ago, but I'm also the guy that said Twitter was a work of Satan, and I got in trouble for that. So maybe I'm the wrong guy to ask, Betsy, but it's like, you know, it's the same thing you tell your own kids. Unfortunately, I'm old enough to be his dad, but it's like, stop it.
Yep.
You know, don't make life harder than what it already is. But I guess we were all young and thought we were, you know, never going to make a mistake. I wish he would stop it. You know, the problem is, Betsy, he's too good of a player that people aren't focusing on that. They're focusing on all this ancillary stuff. The bottom line is Trevor Bauer's one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, and we get to watch him every fifth day. Somebody else needs to just take the phone away from him.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Well, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Betsy. Good to see you.
Keep resting your voice. You'll be hearing Hammy soon enough.
She's the
everybody.
best. Thanks, Betsy.
Bye, thanks.
Bye-bye.